Alright guys, I couldn't find my camera, so we're using the GoPro to do this. I was looking for skirts to make on YouTube and I couldn't find any good gathered skirt materials that I had to hand sew because I don't have a sewing machine. I just needed a quick tulle skirt for a photo shoot. I'm attaching it to an evening gown. So I kind of wanted to walk you guys through this video because I couldn't find one on YouTube, so I figured I might as well make one. First of all, I have this wire mannequin that I thought would work, but her waist is too snatched for me. So because my waist is a little thicker, more like her chest, I had to put it around her chest area. I tried to put it around her skirt area, but it wasn't staying. So that's where we are. Let me go ahead and walk you guys through this bit. Okay, so the first layer, what I did was I took, this is like a really good material, like good quality tulle. I honestly wouldn't recommend using good quality tulle. I would buy this cheaper $1 per yard tulle. This was, I think, $4 or $5 a yard up in LA, and that was a bad call because it's too soft. It doesn't have enough layers here. But see how this cheaper tulle has these nice thick layers here. Alrighty. So the first layer, the under layer, I had folded the tulle over the elastic, as you can see there, just to kind of help double it up. So this is technically 4 layers. No, I'm sorry, 2. I thinned it out. It was supposed to be 4. 2 layers of tulle. Yep. So I basically stitched it here to little dots. I hand sewed it so that it looks neater, but in the back it has the stitching that you're probably more familiar with, this kind of stitching. But in the front, all you can see are these little like dots. You can't even really see them. So I had sheets of tulle that I folded over the elastic, and then I overlapped some of the layers, like you can kind of see here, so that when it lays flat, as you can see, it doesn't separate. I didn't want it to like separate out like this. It would have looked really awkward. So I had to overlap it to make sure that it stayed. There you go. So that's the first layer. Now moving on to show you guys how I do the second layer. I switched to a black thread and then I did a gathered stitch. And then I'm overlapping it over this, and I'll show you guys how I did that stitch. So I pinched some of the tulle here. I don't know if you can see that. Let me rotate her. So I put the tulle here, and then let me come so okay, so kind of give you an idea of what I did. So I took the tulle here, and then I kind of just weaved it about 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch down the hem, right? So I basically just took the needle, and this one's going that way, basically popped it in, right? And then popped it right back through. So it's not really stitching anything together. It's kind of just weaving the thread through the fabric, and then you take the thread like so, right, and you push it together, and it makes these really cute gathers, and you do it over and over and over again. And I go all the way through the tulle, as you can see there. So it goes all the way through. I have this part pinned here to make sure that it stays through. So you do the whole thing, and then I do these in like bits, so it wasn't like one big whole piece. I have like, so this is one piece right here that you guys can see. Sorry for, we're having someone store their stuff at our place, so I'm sorry for the mess. But anywho, so you have a piece about this big. This is probably about, I don't know, 2 feet. And by the time it's done gathering, it'll probably be about, I don't know, 6 inches or so worth of fabric. Each chunk about this big is one of those pieces like this, right? And then it goes all the way to the floor. So yeah, so just keep gathering it, and then you sew it all the way around, and then I will show you guys that next bit. Alright guys, I'm trying to find a way to show you how to do this, but I guess the only way to do it is GoPro version. So I take this pin off, as you guys can see. Ooh, a little stuck. So as you guys can see, the thread is all the way through to the end here. And ouch, ow, well, I'm an idiot. So you take this and you thread it all the way down. Alright, and then you see how so you see how this starts to gather nicely. Alright, so filming this without a tripod. Filming this without a tripod has proven to be a lot more difficult than I thought, but it's alright. We're here to learn how to do this, not for presentation purposes. So here we go. So like I said, this probably gives you about 6 inches or so of gathered tulle. And I'm going to spread it out just a little bit because I kind of want this tulle to go a long way. So I'm going to do it about here where I had pinned it. Wow, I'm good. And then you're just going to stitch it in place. One second. Okay, so you're just going to stitch it in place. And pink. Alright, and then I'll see you guys in a second. Alright guys, so I stitched that part in. As you can see, it's still loosey-goosey and free roaming. I also wanted to talk about this elastic. So if you just measure the elastic to your waist, it's going to be too big because it stretches. So what I did was I stretched the elastic to its like basically almost like max stretch around my waist, and then let it go. So it's actually about like 8 or 9 inches shorter than my waist, but that way I have enough material that goes all the way around, and then it's going to scrunch back up together, and then when I stretch it around my waist, then it'll have enough material. That's the plan anyway. Hopefully we'll see how that goes. All right, so now that you have this stitched up, there, we need to sew these down. Actually, hang on. All right, if you can see it, the 2 connecting points are right about here and here. So this is just kind of free hanging. So what I do is I shift the material so that it looks full. There's not more in one area than another. And then you just start sewing those little dots here, here, and here, so that it starts to kind of look like this end, right? So you don't see these little dots right here. I don't know if you can see it, but they're just little points to pull the material in and keep it in place. But the back of it is where you see like the tracks and stuff, or whatever you want to call these. So yeah, that way you don't see each individual little stitch as you're going by. So yeah, and then go ahead and continue stitching all of these in all the way around, and then I'll catch you guys when I'm done with this. Alright guys, I wanted to get this one part for you so I can explain this. Okay, so you see the black line that you have dragged through it. So I put the needle here, I don't know if you can see it. So the needle comes through the top of that stitch, pull it out, and then I bring it back in, weaving it underneath that black line. So it kind of ties that thread into the fabric. Okay, so it kind of ties that thread into the fabric. Pull it tight. Okay, and there you go. So you see how that is going along. You see the little dot here and the little dot right there. So you just keep going until this is sewn into the skirt. Alright guys, I finished sewing it all up. But it's not done yet. So I just want to show you guys what it looks like when it's unstretched. Alright, so this is what it looks like stretched. And then this is what it looks like when it's snatched. Cute. Sorry for this wide angle, but she's a beauty. Oh. Alright, but yeah, so this is what it looks like all fanned out. Here you go. On to the next part. Alright guys, welcome back. So what I did was I had to move the waistband across the shoulder because this matched the circumference of my waist and where I wanted it to sit. And then I went ahead and pinned the ribbon that I was going to use. As you can see, so this is the right side, this is the wrong side. I put the wrong side out, laying flat against the edge of the waistband. Because when you sew it, and then you flip it in to sew the inside, the right side will be out. So So make sure that the wrong side is facing out when you pin it all the way around, and then I just pinned in various places all the way around the waistband to just hold it in place. Then I'm gonna hand sew all of this right along the edge into the tulle, and then I will come back once it's all sewed. Alright guys, I went ahead and stitched it all the way around, and if you can see the inside of this skirt, it's looking crazy in there, but that's okay because no one's gonna see that anyway. There's 3 different stitch colors, 3 different thread colors in there, but yeah. Okay, so I sewed it all the way around. This is the right side sticking out. Okay, so from here you have 2 options. You can either cut it, stitch it here, and then flip it inside out so that it ends right here, and then sew 2 hooks on the inside and fasten it, or you can keep it the way that it is with this extra ribbon and then tie it to a bow or whatever. Me personally, I think I'm gonna cut it, stitch it, and then put a hook on it because I don't want this front ribbon hanging in front of my skirt. So I will show you guys what that looks like. What I'm gonna do is unhook these pins and then cut and then sew and then cut, and then I'll show you guys what that looks like. Alright guys, so what I did was I had 2 pins mark where my waist was, where I wanted it to tie, and then I cut it about 1 inch or so further from the clip. Let me take this clip out. And then I just hand stitched it here, right? And then all you're gonna do is flip it inside out, and then make sure you poke that edge in so it's nice and sharp, and then you're gonna tuck it over your skirt, and now you have this nice little waist. I go all the way around. There you go. So make sure when you guys are buying this ribbon, you buy it about twice the size that you're gonna want your waistband to be. I wanted mine to be quite small, so I bought this smaller sized one. But if you want a thicker one, just buy a thicker ribbon. Alright guys, I'm gonna go ahead and do it onto the other side, and then I'll show you what to do. Alright guys, I moved into the living room so I had a little bit better lighting-ish. So I came across the problem, so I did the corners like I was supposed to. So what I learned from this project is if you're gonna do it, don't use an elastic band to sew it onto. I thought it would be a good idea so that I could stretch it over me, but the thing is I can't sew this on while keeping it taut. It's just going to shrink back up and I'm not going to be able to sew it into it. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to sew it down here where it's supposed to be. So what you're supposed to do is you actually fold this like a half an inch down, fold it over, and then just do a super basic zigzag stitch all the way behind here. It doesn't really matter what it looks like too much because it's the back side, so it doesn't really matter anyway. I did mess up a little bit. I wonder if you can see it. I did mess up a little bit by doing the inside stitch just a smidge too high up. So when I flip it over, like you can still see some of the exposed gathering. I would just go down a little bit lower so that you don't see that, but it's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew it all the way around and then kind of sew it into it already, and then cut it, and then finish the other stitching myself from the inside and see how that looks. Don't know how that's gonna look, but I guess we'll just see. So yeah, these are the things that we're learning. So I will go ahead and stitch this down and see you guys when that's done. Okay, so I went ahead and poorly stitched it all the way around. This looks a little bit amateurish, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to cut it here and then sew it on, sew the hooks in, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like. Alright guys, so I finished this. Did not come out as clean as I would like it to, but this is what it looks like. Sorry for the mess in my living room. So yeah. I did a simple hook clasp here. I had my boyfriend hold it taut while I stitched it and I cut it, so that kind of helped keep it in the right shape that it's supposed to be in. And there you have it guys, a detachable tulle skirt sewn by hand.